You are lying on your side in the dark, and you are shaking. Not shivering, shaking. The muscles across your back are firing without your permission, burning calories you cannot spare, generating a little heat you lose again within seconds. The ground beneath you is packed earth. Above you, no roof. Around you, the breathing of 20 other people who are also shaking. It is roughly 120,000 years ago, somewhere in Eastern Africa, and the night is winning. You have no fur. Your skin is bare from your neck to your ankles, and it has been bare for your entire species, and the one before it. You are a tropical animal that has been stripped of its coat. Beside you, someone has done something strange. They have taken the hide of an animal killed 4 days ago, scraped it, dried it, and draped it over their shoulders. They are not shaking. You are looking at the most consequential object in the history of your species, and it looks like garbage. A stiff, stinking piece of skin. It will rot into nothing within a decade, but the idea inside it will outlive every empire that has not yet been imagined. So ask the obvious question: why did humans start wearing clothes? You already think you know. The story you absorbed without choosing it is a story about shame. 2 people in a garden, a piece of fruit, a sudden terrible awareness of nakedness, and a scramble for fig leaves. Clothing as the uniform of guilt. It is a beautiful story. As an account of what actually happened, it is backwards. So you correct yourself. You reach for the sensible answer. Cold. Obviously cold. Humans got cold, humans covered up, move on. Hold that answer up to the light for 1 second and you will see the hole in it. Your ancestors lost their fur early. The genetic evidence, drawn from the gene that controls skin pigmentation, suggests dark protective skin was in place by around 1.2 million years ago. Dark skin is only necessary once the hair is already gone. And the hair went for a reason. Your ancestors hunted by endurance, following animals through the midday heat until their bodies collapsed. To do that, you have to dump heat faster than your prey can. So evolution stripped the coat and covered you in sweat glands. You have several million of them. No other primate comes close. Which means for over 1 million years, your ancestors walked this planet naked, and it worked. So here is the hole. If humans lost their hair more than 1 million years ago and clothing is simply a replacement for hair, why is there no trace of clothing until, at the very earliest, 170,000 years ago? That is a gap of 1 million years. 1 million years of naked. And before you reach for the easy objection, deal with it now. Yes, they had fire. Yes, they had shelter. But fire and shelter share a fatal limitation. They are both places. A fire is a place. A cave is a place. Each one warms you only as long as you agree to stay inside it, which means each one is also a leash. You survive the cold on the condition that you do not move. Clothing is the first heat source that travels. That is the entire trick. A hide on your shoulders is a fire you can carry into the wind, a cave you can wear across open ground. Not warmth. Portable warmth. Now, the problem with studying clothing is that clothing does not survive. Stone survives, bone survives. Hide, sinew, fur, plant fiber, none of it. You are trying to study a ghost. So researchers did something clever. If you cannot find the clothes, find the thing that lived in the clothes. Meet the body louse. There are 2 kinds of lice on human beings. The head louse grips individual hairs with specialized claws. The body louse looks almost identical, but it does not live on your body at all. It lives in the seams of your clothing, crawling onto your skin to feed and retreating into the fabric to breed. Its claws are sized for fibers, not hairs. It is an insect physically incapable of existing without garments, which makes the body louse a clock. It could not have evolved before clothing existed, because there was nowhere for it to live. Date the moment it split from the head louse, and you have dated the invention of clothing. The genetic estimates land somewhere between 170,000 and 70,000 years ago. Sit with that. The best evidence for the origin of clothing comes from a parasite. Your species left behind no garment, no thread, no scrap. But the insect that moved into the garment left a mutation, and that mutation is still ticking inside the lice of every human population alive today. The clothes are gone. The bugs are the receipt. Now go to the stones because they tell you not just when, but how. Hide scrapers are old. Neanderthals made them. But a scraped hide is not a garment, it is a blanket. You throw it over your shoulders, you hold it shut with your hand, and if you need your hands, it falls off. Anthropologists draw a hard line here, and it matters more than almost anything else in this story. On one side, simple clothing, draped, wrapped, held. On the other, complex clothing, cut to shape, fitted to the limb, closed at the wrist and the ankle, sewn. Simple clothing lets warm air escape. Complex clothing seals it. It turns animal skin into a personal atmosphere, and the difference is not incremental. It is the difference between surviving a cold night and surviving a cold century. And you cannot make complex clothing without one specific tool: the eyed needle. An awl punches a hole. A needle pulls thread through it, precisely, in a line. The oldest known example comes from Denisova Cave in Siberia, around 50,000 years old, carved from bird bone, 7 centimeters long, with a hole drilled through one end that a modern seamstress would recognize instantly. Now, the comparison that makes that needle look less like a craft object and more like a weapon. Neanderthals lived in glacial Europe for 200,000 years. They were built for it in a way you are not: broad chest, short limbs. A body evolved into a furnace, and they worked hides constantly. What they do not appear to have made, anywhere, is an eyed needle. Modern humans walked into that same landscape with an inferior physiology and a bag of needles. One group was adapted to the cold, the other was equipped for it. Within a few thousand years, the first group was gone. That is not a claim that the needle killed the Neanderthals. Species collapse is never one thing, but it reframes what you are looking at. A tailored garment is a survival margin, measured in degrees, that lets you hunt in weather your competitor has to sit out. Multiply a small margin across 1,000 winters, and it stops being small. Then look at Sungir, in Russia, 34,000 years ago. Archaeologists uncovered burials there containing an adult and 2 children, covered in mammoth ivory beads, thousands of them. The 2 children alone had close to 10,000. The beads were not dumped in the grave. They were arranged in rows following the contours of the bodies, across the chest, down the arms, around the ankles, around the head like a cap. Archaeologists could read the garments directly off the pattern, and what they read was tailored clothing, fitted sleeves, trousers joined to footwear, a hood. Experimental archaeologists have tried to reproduce those beads with period tools. Estimates run from around 45 minutes to over an hour per bead. 10,000 beads. Do the arithmetic and you are looking at thousands of hours of skilled labor, sewn onto clothing that was then placed in the ground and covered with dirt. That is not a society keeping warm. That is a society doing something else. Because notice what a garment does that skin cannot. Your skin says roughly how old you are, and roughly how healthy you are. It cannot say which group you belong to, what you have killed, who your father was, or what will happen to someone who crosses you. Clothing says all of it, instantly, before a word is spoken. Those children could not have earned 10,000 beads. Children accumulate nothing, which means the status was assigned at birth and made visible on the surface of the body so that everyone could see it without being told. Some researchers read Sungir as among the earliest hard evidence of inherited rank in the human record, and the medium of that message is clothing. That logic never stops. It runs through history like a wire. Rome made purple dye a legal matter, because wearing the wrong shade was not a fashion error, it was treason. Medieval governments passed sumptuary laws dictating which fabrics and furs each class was permitted to put on its body. None of that was protecting anyone's skin. It was protecting a hierarchy that had become impossible to see any other way. Which brings you to the inversion. The garden story says you covered your body because you were ashamed of it. The evidence says the opposite. You covered your body because covering it made you capable. You covered it to cross a mountain range, to winter above the Arctic Circle, where humans were living and hunting mammoth 32,000 years ago in temperatures that kill an unprotected body within the hour, to walk into a world that had been closed to every ancestor you ever had and open it. You do not reach Siberia without the needle. You do not cross into the Americas without Siberia. Follow the thread far enough, and every city in the Western Hemisphere traces back to a piece of drilled bird bone in a cold cave. Clothing was never a confession of weakness. It was the first time your species refused the limits of the animal it was born as. But look at what you are wearing right now. Almost none of it is doing thermal work. The room is heated. The building is heated. You are functionally back in the tropics, and you are still dressed. And you would not step outside without doing it. The covering has outlived the reason for the covering. Somewhere in the last 40,000 years, clothing stopped being what protects you from the world and became what presents you to it. Your job, your money, your seriousness, your competence. Encoded in fabric, transmitted before you open your mouth, Read by every stranger you pass without either of you noticing that a reading has taken place. And you did not choose the code. You inherited it. Break it, and you will feel a heat rise in your face that has nothing to do with temperature. That heat is 170,000 years old. It began as insulation. So go back to the shaking body on the packed earth in the dark. That person was not hiding. That person was solving a problem, with the only material available, using a mind that had just begun to notice that the world could be edited. The hide on their shoulders was a hypothesis. It was correct, and it carried their descendants into the ice, across the sea, and eventually into orbit, wearing a garment so complex it holds its own atmosphere. You never took the hide off, you just kept refining it. You started wearing clothes because you wanted to go somewhere your body could not survive. And you are still wearing them, in a warm room, in no danger at all, because somewhere in that long dark journey the clothes stopped being something you use. They became something you are.